Hello and welcome to this videocast. My name is Andreas Blumauer. I'm from the Semantic Web Company, and today I will show you a new feature of PoolParty 5.2. It just was released in November 2015, and this feature I'm going to demonstrate you will explain how the PoolParty text corpus analysis can help you to extend your existing taxonomy. So I will log in to the PoolParty Thesaurus server in a first step. That's the rebrushed dashboard. So from here you can reach all the important services around PoolParty, and you see all the taxonomies and knowledge graphs being stored on this server. I will give you the demo on top of a taxonomy which is about the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. You might know there are a couple of, a bit more than 1,000 heritage sites all around the globe, and they are located in different regions, and that's reflected here in this taxonomy already. So if you go to one of the concept schemes here, sites by region, you will be able to drill down into all the different countries and regions and find the actual heritage sites, like let's say the Schönbrunn Palace. So you might ask in the first step, okay, where does this data come from? There is an official list of the UNESCO provided as a map, and some statistics are available here, and then the actual list. So you also can see here are 3 different types of World Heritage Sites. One is the cultural site, the second one is the natural sites, and then there are mixed sites. There are a couple of other attributes or categories, but let's stay focused on those 3 more or less official types of heritage sites. So that could be a second classifier, and you see here that's rather, let's say, rudimentary developed yet, and that's exactly where I want to focus upon in my next step. So just to explain you how this data was actually developed, or this taxonomy was developed, I did a linked data harvesting, which means we collected data from DBpedia, that's the semantic sister of Wikipedia. And there is, with PoolParty, you might know, a built-in functionality to extract taxonomies from there. And that's where this data comes from. And then the second or the third classifier or concept scheme, here on top you see are the regions, and that's a geographical thesaurus we can provide to our customers. In any case, it's mainly derived from geonames, and it is just a very, let's say, simple taxonomy about all the countries on our globe. So what I'm trying to focus on now is to find out, okay, how could we extend this third category or concept scheme, where when it comes to the question, okay, of which type is a certain heritage site. So let's take a look maybe first on a corresponding search engine. So let's say there is a search around this taxonomy. What we've indexed here is the corresponding Wikipedia sites. So like, for instance, Riga or the Dolomites and so on, the Yosemite National Park. That's all a document, or what you can see here are documents derived from Wikipedia. So that's the short description of the corresponding Wikipedia site. You see there are a couple of other attributes and classifiers attached to this document. So for instance, it's a type document, it has a title, it belongs to a certain region, and it's about a certain World Heritage Site. You can also click on this one. what happens then in the next step is you will be redirected to the link data front end of the corresponding concept in your knowledge graph. And there you will find additional links and attributes around this concept. So you see here the link data front end. It has a URL. By the way, that's on top of the URI of the concept, so it's just a content negotiation. You see here there's the HTML side of the corresponding URI. You see a lot of alternative labels, a definition, broader concepts, related concepts, and even more like longitude, latitude. That was all extracted automatically from DBpedia, and even websites can be found here, like videos on Vimeo or the corresponding UNESCO site and so on. So there was nothing handcrafted here, all extracted automatically from DBpedia. But again, what you can see here is the sites by type, of course, is not really developed. So it's just a rudimentary facet or classifier. And that's exactly what we want to extend now in the next step. So we go now to the corpus analysis feature of PoolParty. What I've done here was I collected those short descriptions of the heritage sites I've just shown you with Yosemite National Park, for instance. And altogether, we collected around 1,900 such documents and then did a corpus analysis on top. That produced around 270,000 term occurrences. We found 130,000 different terms, and we also identified 1,900 roundabout concepts from our knowledge graph in this text corpus. So let's take a look first maybe on the concepts. So here we get a list of concepts found in the document. So that's a good way to measure how good the quality of the taxonomy really is if you make a comparison to a reference corpus like that. So you find France, Africa, Europe, Italy, and so on. That's not very surprising, very frequently in the documents. So we can also check if there are concepts from the knowledge graph not being found in the corpus, and here is a couple of such concepts, and here we could of course make kind of a rebrush or of a kind of a refinement of the taxonomy and say, okay, maybe there is a synonym missing, or maybe we even delete the concept or at least not elaborate on that further. The second, maybe more interesting feature here is find out the terms which are not in the thesaurus yet, which are important in this text corpus. And here we exactly find those types actually of certain additional concepts like parks, cities, churches, islands, temples, castles, and so on. That's all subtypes of those heritage sites, or types of heritage sites we've just seen before. So a castle would be, of course, a cultural heritage site, a subtype of that, a subconcept of that. And now we can start to collect those. So I simply double click on that, and then it will be put here into this candidate concept part. So here now is this castle. I can do temple. Island, maybe could be another one which is interesting. So you don't have to take care of plural or singular. That's all done automatically in the background, of course. Churches, cathedrals, and so on. So what I can now do also is I can start to link those new terms and say, okay, let's say a church has got a sub-concept which is cathedral. So I just drag and drop that here. what happens now is I've made a relation between those two terms, which are not a concept yet. I have to put them first into the taxonomy to make use of that for indexing and so on. And you see here now there's a red signal, which means, okay, those are already have been worked upon, but they are not ready to be integrated into the thesaurus yet. So there's still a broader concept missing. They are loose concepts, as we can call them. So therefore I have to add a broader concept to church and so on. But let me explain first what's that all about. It's a so-called co-occurrence analysis, which helps us even to put some additional synonyms or alternative labels, or identify new concepts, potential concepts or candidate concepts, as we call them, from this co-occurrence analysis, like a Catholic cathedral could be yet another sub-concept of that. So I could double click here and put that as a narrow concept of cathedral. I could also say, okay, Roman Catholic cathedral and Catholic cathedral is probably a synonym, and so on. So I can really extend by such a analysis, co-occurrency analysis, step by step, my candidate concepts. And if I'm finally in the position to integrate those, so I could say now, okay, let's put the church as a sub-concept of cultural site. So here we see that's the broader concept I'd like to integrate with. I first could also still, let's say, make a uppercase out of that. That's also something which can easily be done by a single mouse click. So if it's two words, I can do that also. And now last but not least, I say, okay, let's integrate those three into my existing taxonomy. So there's a dialog which is shown first. Yeah, I say that's okay. And now those three concepts have been integrated into my thesaurus. Let's take a look on that. So now you see I extended on this classifier, and now I will do that step by step with a couple of others. And when I'm done with this extension, I can or will re-index my documents, and you will see the faceted search will be improved quite a lot, of course. Okay, let's do that, and you will see the results in a few seconds. Well, a couple of minutes later, so I extended those categories. You can see here there are cultural sites, mixed sites, natural sites. Let's take a look on church, for instance. There are subcategories like wooden church, Catholic cathedral, and so on. So I will finish that now by adding two others, like there is a frequently used category for cultural heritage called villa, and there might be Palladio used as an alternative label. Could be one extension. And now I'm going to integrate that into my category system, which is probably the cultural side, is a broader concept. So you can see here I can now finally integrate those two categories or concepts in my taxonomy. And last but not least, basilica I already put as a church into the kind of a church into the taxonomy, and I integrate that finally. Well, so as a next step, I'm going to recalculate my extraction model, and then later recalculate the GraphSearch, and in a couple of minutes that will be finished and the results will be shown in a second. So a couple of minutes later, we've been indexing the 1900 documents. So one of the final steps now will be, after having rewritten the index on top of the new category system. The last step now, as you can see here, the co-occurrences report is generated and stored in the system. And last but not least, the GraphSearch will be rearranged. Candidate term list was synchronized. So you can see that's quite an iterative work. Building out the taxonomy can be very helpful to have immediately all the changes displayed in a let's say rather prototypical GraphSearch or faceted search, of course, but still it shows you how that will affect the user interface. So let's go now to the GraphSearch, and you can see now we've got sites by type, and that's quite rich. So you see there are a lot of cultural heritage sites which have to do something with a palace, so that's no surprise. So I can further drill down palace and garden all together, maybe with a church, and last but not least maybe an island. And here we go, Valletta. That's the capital of Malta, and it has all of those features I've just selected in my faceted search. So you've seen how this faceted search and classification system can be step by step built out by making use of PoolParty, the Zaro server. Especially I've showed you how the built-in corpus analysis and co-occurrency analysis can help you to refine step by step your classification system. And I also pointed out that that's of course kind of an iterative process, so you probably now will again try to fetch new terms or additional terms from the list. It refines over time, of course, by any new recalculation of the co-occurrences. It will be refined, and last but not least, after a while, you probably say, okay, great, I'm done. That's about the quality my clients or my employees have expected. So many thanks for your attention. I hope you liked this video cast, and we talk to each other soon. Bye bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.